Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Hall, and this is the morning show. What are we going to do? We start off with something funny, something to launch us off into our exploration of Schadenfreude regarding, well, Rush Limbaugh, right? But don't worry, there'll be time for Rush Limbaugh. First, let's put a smile on our faces.
Attention! If your loved one has been diagnosed with being alive in the current world, you might be entitled to emotional compensation. Hi, my name is Jeff Business. And I'm Darlene Shit. If you have been awake sometime in the last year, you may have experienced symptoms such as
night terrors,
fearing Trader Joe's for the first time ever,
asking your friends to help you go missing,
trying to trick your landlord into thinking you're dead,
attempting to relocate to a sandbox in an abandoned middle school.
If you have experienced any of these symptoms, you might be entitled to some of the following compliments.
Hey, you're doing way better.
Sorry.
Hey, you're doing way better than you think you are.
If you were in the Hunger Games, you'd be not quite dead yet, and that's enough.
You mean to tell me you're living through a global pandemic and you still ate today?
Give yourself a pat on the tushy.
But only if you and your tushy both consent.
Whoa, aren't you that guy/girl/non-binary person who has had a slew of personal misfortunes in the last year but still manages to shower sometime?
I want your autograph.
You're a f***ing icon.
So please pass this on to anyone you know who may be entitled to emotional compensation.
Wow, if I wasn't awake before that video, I am certainly awake or more awake now. Hello, everyone in the chat. Let's say hello, Jess M. Glad to have you here this morning. Who else? We got Junk Shop Library. The Junk Shop was here early. And of course, The Rage. Rage has a show from 10:30 to 11:30 on his channel. It's pretty awesome. Oh, that's right, Rage. Just be happy. Be happy. Be happy. Rush Limbaugh no longer with us. Yeah, Tobin, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Calais, right? Oz, what's up, Oz? We are gathered here today, my friends, to celebrate many things, and to think about many things, and to reflect, and to feed our brains with information, wit, and insight. The wit and the insight typically comes from the chat. I'm not going to lie to you, not from me. Pay attention to the chat. So what are we going over today? I heard somebody died. We'll be talking about that person. We'll be talking about Trump's cash problems. There's going to be a video that we're going to be doing in the halftime show that is has to do with prayer missiles and the second heaven. It's crazy. And the Texas mayor. Have you heard about the Texas mayor who resigned because he told his people in the midst of a natural disaster that they had to suck it up and deal with it? Oh, we're going to be talking about that Texas mayor. And we're going to do some news about the immigration bill that Biden wants to push through the legislature. Yes, immigration. And we'll probably talk about the possible, potential death spiral of the filibuster too, because that's the thing we have to talk about now that the Democrats are in power in the Senate and the Republicans just want to prevent anything productive from happening. All right, Limbaugh to me. All right. So, I'm just going to skip over the question this morning. I'm going to skip over the question because I want to get right to the memes, and then I want to get the main story. The first story we're going to be talking about is Rush Limbaugh. But first, let's do some memes, right? Let's just do some of that. You hate the Rush band? There are not many lines in the sand, woolly ignorant, but you hate the power trio, the Canadian. How can you hate Canadians for one thing and the power trio of Rush? Neil Peart, one of the world's best rock and roll drummers. Geddy Lee, bassist extraordinaire, and Alex Lifeson. How can you hate the band Rush? That's just cruel. James Henry, glad to see you. Those are fighting words. I think I just spat something out. Those are fighting words. That is correct. All right, so let's just get to the funny stuff. Let's get to some more comedy here. Due to COVID-19, whenever there is something incredibly stupid that people do, like in a horror movie, any kind of movie, I think to myself, you know, that's realistic. Having seen people, anti-maskers, do their thing, and it's the principle of 19. The principle of 19 says that anything you see on TV of characters or on film, any kind of media of characters doing something insanely stupid, it's not as stupid now because of the anti-mask movement. And this image, this meme speaks to that. Don't be muzzled by a liberal coat. Winter is a hoax. See, there's a brave incel right there. Fan of Tucker Carlson. He's just he knows winter's a hoax. He knows winter is a hoax. We have only one other meme because I really want to get to this Rush Limbaugh thing. Right? Hey, Brainbug, glad to see you here. Glad to see you here. All right, so let's do the last. We're gonna do one more joke, one more meme, and then we're gonna go right into Rush Limbaugh. Here we go. So this guy's in hell. He's in. Apparently, there's a queue. There's a line to get into hell. Your name's not on our list. Of course not. I don't belong here. I'm Rush Limbaugh. Bum bum bum. And now you can see he's brought from hell into extra hell. Rush Limbaugh. I don't know. Does anyone have a Rush Limbaugh story? Does anyone have a Rush Limbaugh story? I talked yesterday on the 3 o'clock show about how I remember watching his TV show and about how he was explaining about global warming not causing sea level rise because, you know, when you have ice in a glass and it melts, the water level doesn't rise. And that was his ingenious way of telling people that we had nothing to worry about, global climate change. All right. So I don't know if you have any Glenn Chesterton. Can we tell Fox viewers that breathing is a hoax? Oh, we could. And they may believe it. All right. So there is this, and I'll tell you what, we could go through the sins of Rush Limbaugh and we could do the whole show dedicated to it. But let's do a little bit of debunking as well as enjoying the death of I'm going to say, and you know what, a lot of you guys, a lot of you all here in the chat might be nicer people than me. If you're watching right now, you're probably a nicer person than I am, and you don't feel like you can really celebrate the death of Rush Limbaugh, and that's okay. Let me be the person who celebrates for the both of us. If you don't feel comfortable with these negative feelings of joy, I don't think they're negative feelings myself, but if you don't feel comfortable with enjoying the death of a scumbag like Rush Limbaugh, allow me to celebrate and have the fun for all of us, for you, if you're incapable of doing it. All right. So we're going to debunk a little bit. We're going to go to Snopes, and this is the first story. Links are in the description. Did Rush Limbaugh's AIDS update mock the deaths of gay people? This is from Snopes. Limbaugh would later say he regretted the segment as it made fun of people who were dying excruciating deaths. Yes, Rush Limbaugh had a very long career. But the question is, did he really have an AIDS update and mock the deaths of gay people on his radio show? Now, I know some of us here are old enough to remember this. Some of us are old enough to remember this. Let's see the background. Radio host Rush Limbaugh died at the age of 70. Woohoo! After a year-long battle with lung cancer, conservative fans mourned the death of the radio pioneer. Many on social media pointed to Limbaugh's history of making sexist, homophobic, and bigoted remarks. Author Jessica Valenti, for example, posted a message on Twitter stating that Limbaugh once had a segment on his show called AIDS Update that mocked the deaths of gay people. And this is her tweet. Rush Limbaugh had a segment called AIDS Update. set to music where he mocked dying gay people, so I don't really want to hear about speaking ill of the dead today. That's right. For those of us who survived the AIDS epidemic of the 80s and who were aware of Rush Limbaugh back then, you might remember that. Now then, here's the Snopes, because this is a Snopes article. Is this a true statement? Did Rush Limbaugh have an AIDS update and mock the death of gay people? Let's see what Snopes says. Yes, it's true. Rush Limbaugh did have an AIDS update segment that mocked the deaths of gay people. This is something that's been blowing up on Twitter. There's been some discussion of whether or not he actually did do this on his radio show. So in case you're in a conversation with people, online or offline, later on today or over the next few days, rest assured, yes, he was that kind of scumbag. And that just tells you something about the Christian evangelical right, because you know the Christian right love this guy. Oh, he's funny. It's the same kind of thing that they said about Trump too, right? He's funny. He's making me laugh. He's saying the things that we all want to say. It's like, no. Good people, moral people don't do that. They don't want to say those things. So let's see what else Snopes has to say. This is true. While we have not uncovered any audio of these segments, we did find a few contemporaneous news articles and comments from Limbaugh confirming the contents of these controversial segments. Iowa's Cedar Gazette reported in 1990 that Limbaugh's AIDS update, a recurring segment in which he made jokes about the disease that had killed more than 100,000 people in the U.S. in the previous decade, started by playing songs such as Back in the Saddle Again, Kiss Him Goodbye, and I Know I'll Never Love This Way Again, and Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. A disgusting human being, Rush Limbaugh, a person who would make fun of the sick and the dying for profit and fun. The weakest parts, it's the weakest people, the people who are dying of a horrible disease. And this guy was making fun of them. And his audience loved it. He built his business. On the corpses of people dying from, people dead from AIDS for all intents and purposes. Amongst other insults, amongst other horrible things he did, I thought at least in the days to come, in case you have this conversation with anyone, did he really make fun of dying people who were stricken with AIDS? Yes, he did. And his fans loved it. I heard his name. I thought of Sticky Cheese. Rush. Oh, yeah. That's what I thought, too, to tell you the truth, Vesta. The Limburger there, right? I was listening. I have to tell you, Imaginary God, I was listening to Howard Stern, too, back in the day. And, I should really say thank you. Steve, thank you very much for the $1.99 contribution. I appreciate it. This video is probably going to be demonetized at some point because of the things I say here. Some of the videos get demonetized from the morning show. Some of them don't. But I appreciate the support. Always appreciate the support. Oh, man. Oh. We'll do that tomorrow, Iron Chariot. I don't have it. I don't want to. I'll play the video tomorrow about the Trump supporter. I don't know if you have seen the video of the Trump supporter who cries on Limbaugh's show once about Donald J. Trump. It is delicious. That's what it is. It is delicious. Yeah. There are problems with Howard Stern. No doubt about that. Glenn Chesterton, him receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom is an insult to everyone that got awarded, before and what awarded to the future. F Trump, F Rush, rot in hell. Indeed, all of that. I cannot even not agree with that. It's crazy. making fun of people stricken with AIDS. No treatment. People didn't even know what the disease was at the very beginning. I remember having a conversation with someone, and this is in the 90s, mind you, with a conservative person in college, when I was in college. And he told me that he wouldn't shake hands with people he didn't know in case he caught HIV. And it's like, that's not how that works. That's not how it works. Oh, really, Rage? I didn't listen to Rush back then, but I remember my dad talking about it. Was he a Rush fan? I mean, Rush Limbaugh fan. What a scumbag, right? And a cursory look at Rush Limbaugh's history. We could easily talk about all the racist statements he made, all the misogynistic statements he made, but this one thing about people stricken with AIDS really resonated with me. Oh, really? I didn't know that, Steve. His brother wrote a book called Persecution. Oh, he was persecution, being called out for the crap that you do. The thing is about conservatives, right? And this is really the Trump supporters, the conservatives. They're just, many of them, the people who went into the Capitol building on January 6th, the hardcore Trump supporters, the fans of Rush Limbaugh, maybe not all the fans I'd say all the fans of Rush Limbaugh, despicable. Those are the people who we need to marginalize. Those are the people who we need to manage and reach out to people who are in the middle, who are able to be swayed. Sure, you can talk to the ditto heads if you want to, sure. But I think most of our efforts are best spent with people who are left-leaning and want to become more to the left, be pushed more to the left, and people who are centered, who are more in the center and push more towards the left too. Oh, Rush Limbaugh. All right, Dr. Mordecai, you're being put in timeout. You can't behave yourself. If you don't behave yourself, you're going to you'll just be removed permanently. So that's your 2 warnings, and I never give 2 warnings. Dr. Mordecai has a warm spot for him, but I swear to my fictitious God, if I have to do it one more time ever, you're just getting booted off the channel. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. So you got your warning. You got your second warning. All right. I think I got my bile. I think I got my bile out here about Rush Limbaugh, and we'll go on. We'll just go on to the next story, which is, I'm going to go to something. I'm getting the anger feels about Rush Limbaugh, and so I'm going to do something funny. Something that we can all have maybe, hopefully, most of us will have a laugh at. This is the video I dropped yesterday. I was planning to do this during the midpoint of the show, but let's just do this.
When worship happens on the earth normally, it is collected, number one, by angels a lot of times, but it also goes up through the atmosphere and it's put into the bowls before the altar of God, and it creates an incense. Well, that sacrifice of praise is the most beautiful incense in the throne room when someone's doing that, but it also creates a weapon. As you do that, when you say that, you're worthy anyway, you are my God and I will not serve another, you are it. Missiles come out of your mouth and they go up through the second heaven where Satan has this little mock kingdom set up, and you actually blow up parts of it. I mean, really, it explodes. They have to try to rebuild all the time.
Really?
And so you're very dangerous against hell. And your worst days, we should always worship God.
I was hoping that would actually make me feel better and put a smile on my face, but instead it just reiterates the point, re-emphasizes the point that the people who follow Kat, the prophetess, and the people who follow Rush Limbaugh and the people who follow Donald J. Trump, they're just divorced from reality. Divorced from reality. Like that train is gone. They have a tentative grasp on anything outside of the crazy thoughts going through their head. Nutty people are fascinating. That's what it is, And bleach kills everything. Indeed, it does. Nutty people are fascinating, Phil Lister. And the thing is she really saying anything that crazy that you wouldn't find in the Book of Enoch, for example? Because I was thinking about the Book of Enoch, about how the cosmology of the Book of Enoch that has several heavens, right? So maybe this kind of Christian fan fiction that she's talking about here, about prayer missiles blowing up, the devil's little mock kingdom in the second heaven. That's really not. It's weird to us because only one person believes it. But if you had like a large amount of people believe in it, and they've been believing in it for centuries, then we would just think, oh, it's just crazy dogma stuff. Please. Enoch is not a good measuring stick of crazy. That's very well said. Very well said, Brainbug there. That's the thing too, Lee. I cannot stop watching her. She just is her own special brand. She is just speaking her truth. I don't know whether or not she takes it seriously, or if the train has already left the station. I don't know. Does anyone have any make my ears bleed, right? But there are people. She has fans. There are people there are people who listen to her and take her seriously. Oh, here, Blazing. Good to see you, Blazing. May Allah, God, Jehovah, Yahweh, Vishnu, Odin, Allfather, Ra, or whatever, show no mercy on Rush Limbaugh's soul if such a thing exists. Exactly. Junk shop library. I love that woman so much. That's a very good point, Vesta. Cat does remind me too of the Simpsons cat lady. You can just imagine her carrying cats with her and throwing it at people. Did you see the video on how bananas prove? Oh, of course. I've seen the video of how bananas prove the perfect fit in the hand. I think that's what the video that you're talking to. That's an old video out there. All right. I think I've got Rush Limbaugh out of my. I might just go into some kind of apoplectic fit later on the show about Rush Limbaugh, but I think I got it out of my system. I think I've got him out of my system for a little while. What's up, KCA, Randy? Oh, Paula White. Are we talking about Paula White, Phil Lister? Like Cat is as nuts as the Trump's spiritual advisor who pretends to talk in tongues to African angels. Right. All right. Let's go to the next story. What is the next story? Oh, let's see. Oh, this is the Texas mayor. You can't make this up. I've been writing posts on the internet for years, 6-7 years, and reality is always one step ahead of me. And this Texas mayor, this is a real story too. The links are in the description. This is a real story. Texas mayor resigns, tells people they're on their own amid outages. Only the strong will survive. Texas. If you know anyone in Texas, more than likely you've heard stories of power outages, water not running, pipes bursting in their houses, which causes a ton of damage. It's madness. It's madness, mostly due to the fact that Texas has an incompetent governor run by Republicans and don't put any money into their infrastructure. And let me just go on a small diversion before we talk about this mayor who told his people, his citizens, the people in his city, that they're on their own. Unrestrained capitalism, or this crony capitalism, however you want to call it, in Texas, the effects, the end point of that is the same of like Venezuela, right? Of that country where the government basically reaped in all the money from the oil, from the natural gas that they produced, and didn't put it back into the infrastructure of the country. They did not put it into basic services for people. They did not invest the money. They just took it for themselves, the oligarchs in Venezuela. It's the same thing in Texas. They have a lot of mineral wealth, but mineral wealth is actually harmful to democracy, typically. So Venezuela, Texas, we saw a video by Beto O'Rourke yesterday that talked about, Texas falling into a third world status. Well, this mayor, here we go, telling people that they're on their own and only the strong will survive. Only the strong will survive. Link in the description, everyone. Colorado City, Texas. The mayor of a small Texas city, not a town, a city, has resigned amid criticism over a social media post in which he told residents that they're essentially on their own as the state experiences power outages from this week's historic weather storm. On Facebook, local media reports that former Colorado City Mayor Tim Boyd wrote Tuesday that it's, quote, not the local government's responsibility to support you during times like this. Sink or swim, it's your choice. Oh, he's former now because he quit, but let's go on with the story. In the post, Boyd went on to say that power providers and other services owe residents nothing, and that he's tired of people looking for a handout. He told residents that if they don't have electricity, water, or other necessities, they should come up with a game plan. If you're sitting at home in the cold because you have no power and are sitting there waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're lazy, okay, Andy, just go on and read. Ignore the rage is direct result of your raising. Yes, believe it or not, I was getting enraged over the your versus your issue. I'm moving on. Only the strong will survive and the weak will perish, wrote Boyd. Boyd concluded that post by blaming socialism for people believing that the government should take care of them in times of need. I thought I couldn't get any more angry than I thought I couldn't get any more angry than thinking about Rush Limbaugh back in the day doing a segment mocking dying AIDS people stricken with AIDS. But yes, believe it or not, I've just leveled up my anger game right now with this guy. There's more. Boyd posted again on Facebook apologizing for some of the things he said about those who are in true need of help, but also saying he won't die for 1 minute. What he said in the post. In the second post, Boyd also wrote that he had already turned in his resignation as mayor, but it's unclear if he did so before or after writing his first Facebook rant. Meanwhile, as of Wednesday morning, many in the state were still without power, according to Power Outage US. Well, it could be actually Power Outrage US. More than 3.4 million outages were reported as of 12 p.m. Eastern, including over 6,000 in Mitchell County, where Colorado City is located. I don't even know. I mean, oh my, that is hot garbage. That is hot garbage. And I want to thank my girlfriend for sending me that news story too. I would not have heard about that if she did not send me that news story. Is it, the man was just saying the things that a lot of conservatives think. Does he think he is? He thinks he's a lord over the serfs. The weak will perish. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about the your versus your stuff, right? Which is the thing of all the things that tripped me up in that. Oh, man. Steve, I believe they should really learn what that word socialism really means. Well, yes. If they learned about what socialism actually is, more than likely, they would still be using it because they don't care. They would try to use it as a scare tactic on the rest of us. Oh, junk shop too. I hope that quote follows Boyd for the rest of his life. And I'm going to reread it too, because I don't think my blood pressure is up high enough this morning. I think I'm going to read it one more time. In case you're just tuning in case you don't know what's going on, let's take a look at the crazy statements. All right, so this is on the Post. Boyd went on to say that power providers and other services owe residents nothing, and he's tired of people looking for a handout. He told residents if they don't have electricity, water, or other necessities, they should come up with a game plan. If you're sitting at home in the cold because you have no power and are sitting there waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're lazy is direct result of your raising. Only the strong will survive and the weak will perish. I've read the story several times, and I'm still like a fish being pulled out of the water, being put on the boat and flopping around. I'm having difficulty wrapping my mind around that. That's what I am. Yeah, exactly. Funny thing, in Sweden, we try not to let people die of cold. What a novel idea. That's socialism in the United States of America. The idea about people not dying from the cold, that's what that is. Dude, it totally is mighty mighty. This is like a spoof of what a conservative might say. Out of control. I hear you. You have been heard, junk shop. You've been heard. All right. Maybe we should try to feel better about something. Can we feel? I've been really trying to feel good about something here. This is just, this is restating what the drumbeat here on this channel is all about. Glenn Chesterton says, what you Americans consider socialism is a centrist view in most other countries, including your neighbor to the north where I live. Indeed. And all right, so let's I'm going to try to pivot right now. I'm going to try to pivot, and I think we can talk a little bit about Trump's money problems, right? I'm taking a deep breath, literally. I'm just taking a deep breath and trying to center myself to pivot to the next story. So let's talk about Trump's money problems. I'm going to share a video with you guys, with you all, and we'll talk about. Indeed. All right. Let's talk about Trump's money problems. I'm going to share a video. We'll have fun. Maybe I'll get out of this rage spiral that I'm in. Maybe I should hit the right button first, Andy.
You know what they say, mo money, mo problems. I don't know if anyone says that actually anymore.
No one does.
Donald Trump officially left the White House on January 20th, and he immediately came to face with a whole bunch of money problems. And I mean immediately. See, just a few hours after Trump left office, new financial disclosure documents that detailed his current situation were released. And what became clear immediately is how big a hit the ex-president's company took over the last year. Consider these facts. Overall, Trump's businesses produced almost 40% less revenue in 2020 than they had in 2019. Trump made $30 million less at his Doral property in Miami than he did in 2019. Revenue at the Trump International Hotel in Washington and the former president's Turnberry property in Scotland were down more than 60% year over year. Sidebar, remember when Trump wanted to host the G7 summit at his Doral Golf Club? Me too. While some, maybe a lot, of the downturn in Trump's financial fortunes can be laid at the feet of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic and the societal restrictions it's forced on all the travel and hospitality industry, no question, the why of Trump's declining fortune matters far less, honestly, than the what now. So you'll remember, and if not, I'm here to remind you, it's literally what I do, that Trump faces a series of financial challenges in the coming months and years that are primarily tied to his personal guarantees on a series of multi-million-dollar loans. As the New York Times' David Lenhart wrote of Trump's tax returns in the fall of 2020, quote, he appears to be responsible for loans totaling $421 million, most of which is coming due within 4 years. Should he win re-election, His lenders could be placed in the unprecedented position of weighing whether to foreclose on a sitting president. Whether he wins or loses, he will probably need to find new ways to use his brand and his popularity among tens of millions of Americans to make money, end quote. So Trump, as you may have noticed, didn't win re-election. And not only that, but on his way out the door, Trump peddled a series of lies about the 2020 election that played a not insignificant part in a riot on January 6th that led to the violent storming of the U.S. Capitol and triggered his second impeachment by the House. Since January 6th, even more companies have distanced themselves from Trump. Here's a brief, non-comprehensive list of those who have waved goodbye. There's Facebook, Twitter, Stripe, Shopify, the PGA Tour, and Deutsche Bank. Now, Deutsche Bank, that last one, ending its relationship, is the real doozy. According to CNN, Trump owes that bank a lot of money, like $340 million a lot. And it's TBD if other banks will even consider giving Trump loans, considering his current financial situation. Deutsche Bank was seemingly the last bank willing to do so. Being labeled as an election loser has also damaged Trump's always winning brand. Members of Trump's residential property club, Mar-a-Lago, are trying to leave, CNN has reported, calling the atmosphere, quote, sad. Now, that doesn't only hit Trump's ego. A Mar-a-Lago exodus is also a major problem for his financial bottom line. While Trump was in the White House, many Mar-a-Lago members paid up to $200,000 for yearly memberships. $200,000! Although Trump's unceremonious exit has further complicated the president's ability to A, make money, and B, pay off his looming debts. Those are facts. And for all the talk about Trump's next political moves, it's his dicey financial future that is likely his focus now that he is no longer in office. One thing that might make him feel better, his positive, if delusional, attitude. After all, Trump is famously clever when it comes to dealing with debt. In a 2016 interview with CBS's Norah O'Donnell, the billionaire businessman said this, quote, I'm the king of debt. I'm great with debt. Nobody knows debt better than me. I've made a fortune by using debt. If things don't work out, I renegotiate the debt. I mean, that's a smart thing, not a stupid thing. Okay? And that is the point. We make new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Be sure to check them all out.
There you go. Financial problems in the House of Trump. It's good just to be aware of the story as the days, the weeks, the months go by, so that when the HMS, when the USS, whatever, when the ship of Trump actually hits the financial iceberg, finally, then we can say that we've been aware of the story all the way along. And that's right, James Henry. Trumponomics is not honoring your debts. That's exactly it. And, you know, it's an interesting case, Evolve NYC. America's a failed state. That was mostly beside the point. America's lying. You know, the thing is that there are some simple fixes, to tell you the truth. And we go over the simple fixes almost on a daily freaking basis here on this channel. There are simple fixes. But the thing is, there's no political will to execute on those fixes. There is no political will, or very limited political will to fix what needs to be fixed in this country. All right, so what did we do? We covered a lot so far. We covered the Rush Limbaugh. We covered the Trump cash crunch. Oh, cat here. The prophetess, the Christian prophetess. We talked about the Texas mayor who told his freezing citizens that they were on their own. Social Darwinism at its best. And what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about Biden's attempt to get immigration finally somewhat, maybe, possibly under control. Let's take a look at this story. White House announces sweeping immigration bill. White House announced a sweeping immigration bill Thursday that would create an 8-year path to citizenship for millions of immigrants already in the country and provide a faster track for undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children. The legislation faces an uphill climb in a narrowly divided Congress, where House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has just a 5-vote margin, and Senate Democrats do not have the 60 Democratic votes needed to pass the measure with just their party support. The real story here is this could be another step on the road of the filibuster dying. Let's continue the story. Officials did not say if they believe the reconciliation process, a special budget tool that applies only to a specific subset of legislation and allows the Senate to pass bills with a simple majority, would be applicable for an immigration bill. Too early to speculate about it right now, one official said. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, chap, but from what I understand, the filibuster, that is just a rule of the Senate. It's not in the Constitution of the United States. Those in power in the Senate can either end the filibuster when they want to, or they can carve out special circumstances where filibusters do not exist. Like, for an example, in reconciliation bills, that is a special carve out, and filibusters do not apply. The Senate is working on passing the president's coronavirus relief legislation through reconciliation. The expectation is that the administration could also use the process to pass on the infrastructure bill. You're going to be hearing a lot more about reconciliation and about working around the filibuster. If Democrats really wanted Puerto Rico statehood, if they really wanted DC statehood, if they really wanted immigration reform, they could just do it with a straight 50% vote if they wanted to. All right, so let's talk about what Biden wants to get done in this immigration bill. Terminology change. Biden's proposed bill, if passed, would remove the word alien from U.S. immigration laws, replacing it with the term non-citizen. The change, an administration official said, is to better reflect the president's views on immigration. You know, the U.S. Code currently defines an alien as any person not a citizen or national of the United States. You know, that seems like a word from the 19th century, that we're going to use the word alien to describe non-citizens. You know, words matter in a lot of ways. It sets a tone. You know, non-citizen, that sounds like a human being. Alien, maybe not. Let's see. Clear backlogs. The bill would exempt certain categories from counting towards annual caps. For example, spouses, partners, and children under the age of 21 of lawful permanent citizens would be exempt from the caps. The bill also provides funding to U.S. This is the important part here. The bill also provides funding to U.S. citizenship and immigration services to chip away at the backlog of asylum applications, which the number is legion of people of trying to get into the country who are seeking asylum. Changes to the legal immigration system. The bill provides funding for more immigration judges and puts an emphasis on access to counsel. It authorizes funding for counsel for children and vulnerable individuals and eliminates the 1-year limit for filing an asylum case. And the big one, this is the big one here, a pathway for citizenship. The idea that people here not legally don't have a pathway to citizenship, I don't know. I'm just going to say the same thing that we've all been saying, that most of us have been saying for years. It's madness that there is no pathway. Legislation goes further than the last effort in 2013 by cutting the time to acquire citizenship to 8 years instead of 13. First, the individuals would be in temporary status for 5 years, with 3 years until they get citizenship, amounting to an 8-year path. There's an exception for undocumented immigrants who came to the U.S. as children who fall under a form of humanitarian relief known as the temporary protected status, or who are farm workers. Those individuals can get green cards if they meet requirements, including passing background checks. So that's what's going on. But once again, it is the idea about reconciliation being used by the Democrats if they want to get vital programs passed in the Senate. All right. I haven't been ignoring you, chat. I haven't been ignoring you. I've had to go through this story, and now I'm back. Let's see what chat says. Most of us would fail. Many of us. I have taken a look at the U.S. citizenship test, and I believe I'd be let in. But a lot of people would be, Steve. You're right about that. Brain bug. On fire, brain bug. It may have been Trump's misunderstanding of the word alien that led to the Space Force. see Trump putting thinking Space Force would just man the border wall with Mexico. Biden is centrist. Yep, definitely. This Wall Street Democrat, definitely. Not my first choice to be president. Of course, I voted for Bernie in the primaries. Glenn Chester said, going back to the Trump story, when asked the difference between himself and Trump, Mark Cuban answered, "I'm actually a billionaire. Game, set, and match." To Cuban, indeed. The USA is a great experiment in politics, but the experiment is far from over. Changes are facing great existence, but they are necessary. You're right. Because, and I want to say this again, right? And what we've talked about in this last 45 minutes, it just shows in stark detail that the US can't have it both ways. You can't have part of the country being run as third world fiefdoms and other parts of the country being more like Western Europe, being more like the northern countries. This will not work in the long run. The country has to be one thing or the other. We are either going to be Venezuela or we're going to be Norway. And this is something that a lot of Democrats have problem with, and a lot of liberals have problems with, and independents have problems with. But this is the thing. This system, the idea of this divided house, it will not work. It didn't work in 1860. And it's not going to work in 2021. We are either going to be all one thing or all the other. If it's up to the Republicans, we'd all be like in Texas, and this would be a failed state. Religion would flourish. And if the free people, the enlightened people, the smart people who hold enlightenment values win, then we're going to be more like Norway, more like Sweden, more like Denmark. It is all one thing or all the other. The idea of that there's some kind of middle ground, that is false. That is a fallacy. That is the middle of the road fallacy right there. That somehow you can have these two competing models operate in the same nation. Well, I try to be funny too, James Henry. I try to be funny too. But that's attempting. Donald Goins, 19K, MSW, we have to work with what we're giving, and that's Biden. Yeah, we need to keep pushing. Always push. And when the primaries come up in the next cycle, in the off-year election in 2022, primarying oligarchical Democrats, right? Primary middle-of-the-road Democrats, getting progressives into more state seat everywhere. That's key. That is key. And like we were saying yesterday, in case there's a ballot initiative for open primaries, for ranked choice voting, that's a way to get people further away from far right evangelical ideologies, to get politicians away from that. Oh, man. All right, so let's see what else. Anything else in the chat? Oh, global warming. Yeah, global warming. That has to be, yeah. All right. Simply Secular says the idea that a country can make rules which are perfect and last forever are nonsense. Yeah, exactly. There has to be constant pressure. Right, because if we don't put, and I don't want to go back to what Simply Secular says, if we don't have constant pressure, and that pressure will come one way or the other. There is pressure from industry to cement their position in society. There is pressure by the theocrats, the would-be theocrats. There's always pressure from those groups. If we do not supply our own pressure, then they win. It's as simple as that. Oh, yeah. All right. Before we start wrapping up, it's been very emotional, very angry. Just Rush Limbaugh, and then the Texas mayor. Let's do something funny. I'm going to wrap up with something comical, put a smile on our faces before we go off into the world. Let's see what we have.
I got hit up by Netflix. Like Netflix. They sent me this stuff so that I'll talk about this show, cookies, socks, whatever the heck this is. Also, this mask is not CDC compliant, but we're all on the same page here, right? Like, how the heck is some guy in an obscure punk band with an esoteric sense of humor and a goofy haircut getting promo deals with massive multinational media companies? Also, is this sea salt? They want me to use my authentic voice, but my authentic voice just can't help but talk about how strange it is that...
Well, there it is. That cut short. Unfortunately, I don't understand why, but I like this guy's sense of humor. In case he really is, I don't know if this is a goof or not. In case he really is getting a Netflix deal, good for him. He is an original, funny voice. All right. So, what did we talk about today, everybody? Hey, by the way, I see Rage in the chat. Go to Rage's channel, 10:30 to 11:30. He's running a show. He's running a morning show. Good guy. Does great work. You should check him out. Let's see. What do we talk about? Rush Limbaugh making fun of AIDS patients. People dying from AIDS in the 80s. True story. Thank you, Snopes. The Trump crash and cash crunch. Trump in trouble, financial trouble. More financial trouble than he was. Let's see what else. The Texas mayor who told people that they're on their own in the midst of a natural disaster. Blame socialism. I wish I could make that up. I wish that was something that I made up, but it's true. It's true. If you're just tuning in, go back in the show. There's also links to the stories in the description. But this idea that this Texas mayor, in the midst of a natural disaster, told his citizens that they're on their own. Absolutely true. Horrendous person. And of course, we went over the immigration story, the immigration bill Biden wants to pass, and we talked about reconciliation. So those are the things that we covered today. Wow, man. It's been a crazy show. This has been a crazy show. I didn't think I'd get so agitated, but I did. I got just, yeah. Well, you're right, James Henry. The way forward is by doing grassroots level. Georgia proved that it can be done. Stacey Abrams and whatever grassroots system she cooked up flipped the state blue and gave us 2 blue senators. Whatever she did needs to be replicated again and again and again because it works. Thanks again, Steve, for the super sticker for the $1.99 contribution to the show. It is appreciated. I would do this thing. When I was doing stand-up comedy on the regular, there are open mics I would go to where there were maybe like 5 people attending, and those people would be comics. This is the policy I have for this show, for being on YouTube. I would be doing this anyway, but I do appreciate the financial support. I'm out of work. My girlfriend actually this is a whole nother story. I'm going to talk more about my personal stuff at 3 p.m. when I play Jenga. So if you want to come on, we'll talk about, vaccines, about, people within my pod getting vaccinated. But hey, thanks again for everyone coming on because you're in the chat. I think if you're in the chat, then you're on the show, basically, right? We're accomplices. We're accomplices in this, whatever we're doing here. All right. Take care, everyone. I'm doing a show at 3 p.m. today. I just played Jenga, and then I just talked to you guys, to you all, whoever shows up. And tomorrow, of course, we're doing this whole thing over again. Tomorrow is Friday. I don't know how the days keep going so fast, but tomorrow is Friday. They are for me because I'm just busy AF. So, check out the rest of I have some funny videos on the channel. That cat care one that I played earlier, that's a video on my channel. If you could hit like, that really helps in the search algorithm. And once again, check out Rage's channel. Yeah, he's a good guy. Accomplice to Andy, indeed. Junk shop, indeed. Accomplices. Be good, be strong, everyone. If nothing else, tomorrow I'm doing the same thing over again, over and over.